All right. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are diving into something that I think is going to be really helpful for a lot of you out there. We're going to be looking at the costs of studying abroad.
The big one, yeah.
I mean, let's be real, those brochures, they always make it look so sunny and glamorous, right? But then you get the bill and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, the reality can be a bit of a shock sometimes, especially when it comes to the finances.
Exactly. So we're going deep today, folks. We've got this awesome comparison guide that breaks down the costs for four super popular destinations: Australia, Canada, the UK, and the USA.
And we're talking tuition, living expenses, the whole shebang.
Yep, we're leaving no stone unturned. And I gotta say, when I first glanced at some of these figures, I was like, whoa, is that a typo? I mean, the USA topping the chart at a potential $60,000 a year for tuition. That's wild.
It's definitely a significant investment, that's for sure. But the important thing to remember is that that figure represents the high end of the spectrum. There's a huge range depending on what you're studying and where you're studying.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. Give us some hope here. What kind of range are we talking about? What are some examples?
Well, let's say you're interested in engineering in Australia. You're probably looking at around $45,000 per year for tuition. But if you're more into the arts, it could be closer to $25,000.
So, like, choosing the right major could literally save you thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. And that holds true for other countries too. In Canada, an MBA might set you back around $36,000 a year, but a social sciences program could be closer to $20,000.
Okay. Okay, I'm seeing the pattern here. So, listeners, start thinking now. What field are you interested in? This is already giving you some clues about potential costs.
Yeah, definitely. And while you're thinking about your field, don't forget about another cost: textbooks. Those can range from like $500 to $1,500 a year, depending on your program and location.
Ugh, textbooks, the hidden cost that always gets me. You think you've budgeted for everything and then bam, textbooks hit you with another expense. And honestly, even tuition and textbooks, those are just the beginning, right?
Right. We can't forget about living expenses.
Yeah, living expenses, that's a whole other ball game. And it can really make or break your budget, like maybe even more than tuition
Oh,
sometimes.
absolutely. And the cost of living can vary so much depending on where you are in each country.
Give us some examples.
Well, take Canada, for instance.
Mm.
Big cities like Toronto and Vancouver are going to be way more expensive than smaller towns.
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on London rent prices.
Oh, I've heard horror stories about London rent. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, you're probably looking at around £600 per month just for a room in a shared flat, and that's just a starting point.
Oof. So it's not just about picking the right country, it's about strategically choosing the city, too. I mean, close your eyes for a sec, listeners, and picture your ideal study abroad location. All right, got it. Now think about that city. Are you picturing a bustling, expensive city or a smaller, more affordable town?
Yeah, that lifestyle choice is going to have a big impact on your overall budget.
Okay, so we've got the location sorted. Now let's talk about where we're actually going to live. We've got the classic dorm life. Then there's private rentals for those who want more independence. And of course, sharing with roommates for those on a tighter budget. Each one comes with its own price tag, right?
Right. Dorms are usually the cheapest option, running anywhere from about $100 to $400 per week in Australia and $500 to $1,200 a month in Canada.
But what if you really want your own space? You know, some peace and quiet for those late night study sessions. What's the damage for private rentals?
Well, you're going to be paying a premium for that privacy.
Hmm.
In the UK, for example, a lot of students opt for shared flats or houses, especially in London, because splitting the rent with roommates can make it a bit more manageable.
Yeah, and sharing is a lifesaver in the US too. I mean, you could easily be looking at anywhere from $500 to $1,800 a month for an apartment in some cities.
Mm.
So yeah, splitting those costs with roommates can make a world of difference.
It's definitely a popular strategy for international students to keep those living expenses under control.
Okay, so we've talked tuition, we've talked living expenses. It's a
Yeah.
lot. I know, but don't panic just yet because there is some good news. Let's talk financial aid and scholarships.
Ah, yes, the light at the end of the tunnel. It's important to remember that a lot of students manage to fund their studies with the help of financial assistance. Scholarships and aid can be absolute game changers.
So there's hope. Tell us more about these scholarships. What kind of aid is out there?
Well, there are merit-based scholarships for students with excellent academic records, need-based aid for those who demonstrate financial need, and even country-specific programs targeting students from certain regions.
Okay, that's helpful. What are some of the programs that really stand out to you?
Well, one that immediately comes to mind is the Australia Award Scholarships. These are amazing opportunities for students from developing countries, and they offer full coverage for your studies.
Full coverage, wow. What kind of students are eligible for that?
It's a program focused on leadership and development, so eligibility varies depending on your country of origin and what you want to study, but it's definitely worth looking into.
See, this is why I love doing these deep dives. We uncover these hidden gems that could be life-changing for some people. What else is out there?
Well, Canada has a great program called the Commonwealth Scholarship, which is known for being quite generous. And in the UK, the Chevening and Commonwealth Scholarships are super prestigious and sought after by students worldwide.
Oh, and of course, we can't forget about the Fulbright program in the U.S. I've heard incredible things about that one, although it's pretty competitive, right?
It is very selective,
Yeah.
but the rewards are significant. It's not just about the funding, it's about the prestige and the network of Fulbright scholars you become a part of.
So if you're aiming high, that's one to add to your list for sure.
Absolutely. And remember, don't limit your search to just the universities. There are tons of external scholarship databases out there, so do your research.
Good point. Cast a wide net and get those applications rolling, folks. But what happens when scholarships and aid just aren't enough to cover everything?
Well, that's where part-time work comes in for a lot of international students. It's all about finding that balance between academics and earning enough to make ends meet.
Yeah, because let's be real, sometimes you need that extra cash to cover those unexpected expenses, or even just to have some fun with your friends. But each country has different rules about working while studying, right? What are we looking at here?
In Australia, you're allowed to work into 40 hours per fortnight during semesters, which is a 2-week period, and get this unlimited hours during breaks.
Wait, hold up. Unlimited hours during breaks. Australia's sounding pretty good right about now. That could be a huge advantage for students who need to earn as much as possible.
For sure. Now, Canada's a bit different. Their regulations allow for up to 20 hours of work per week during your studies, and then you can work full-time during breaks. The UK has similar rules, 20 hours during term time and full-time during holidays, but in the US, it's usually limited to on-campus jobs if you're studying on a student visa.
So we're talking about jobs like retail, hospitality, maybe some on-campus roles in libraries or student centers. That's really helpful information to have, just to figure out if a country's work policies match up with your financial needs and how do you think you can balance with your studies.
It's definitely a crucial piece of the puzzle when you're trying to figure out the true cost of studying abroad. Each country's regulations can have a big impact on your overall financial plan.
Okay, so we've thrown a lot of numbers and info at you today. Take a moment to process it all. What's standing out to you? What are your priorities when it comes to your education and your study abroad experience?
Yeah, think about it. Are you drawn to a specific country or city no matter what it costs? Or is budget your top priority?
These are the kinds of questions that are going to help you make the best decision for you.
And we're here to help you through that process with information and insights so you can make informed choices.
Exactly. Remember, thorough research and planning are your best friends in this journey. Don't just rely on those glossy brochures.
Dig deeper, compare costs across different universities and cities, explore all your financial aid options, and really crunch those numbers to find the best fit for you.
Yeah. And talk to people. Reach out to current international students if you can. They've been there, done that, and their advice is super valuable. And don't be afraid to connect with university advisors, too. They're there to help you navigate this whole process.
So true. Those advisors are a goldmine of information. But let's go back to something you mentioned earlier, those hidden costs, those everyday expenses that can really creep up on you.
Ah, yes. The sneaky budget drainers. It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of studying abroad, picturing yourself exploring new cities and making new friends, that you forget about the little things that can eat away at your budgets, like even getting around in a city like London. That can easily cost you over £150 a month just for the tube.
Yeah, transportation's a big one.
Yeah.
And then there's groceries, entertainment, going out with friends. All those things add up quickly.
I actually learned that the hard way when I studied abroad. I had meticulously budgeted for tuition, but I totally underestimated how expensive it would be to just, exist in a new city. Groceries were more expensive than I expected, eating out added up fast, and even just grabbing a coffee every day started making a dent in my budget.
That's why it's so important to have a realistic idea of those day-to-day expenses. Do your research. Look up the average cost of living in your chosen city. Things like groceries, transportation, entertainment. There are lots of online resources that can help you with that.
Great tip. Factor those costs in from the start. But okay, let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about the potential costs of studying abroad, but what about the value? Because at the end of the day, this is an investment right now.
It is, absolutely. It's not just about the upfront costs, it's about the long-term returns, both personally and professionally.
So break it down for us. What do we mean by return on investment when it comes to studying abroad?
Think about it this way. How will this experience enhance your career prospects? Could it potentially boost your future earnings? Will it open doors to opportunities you might not have had otherwise?
I see what you're saying. It's about broadening your horizons, gaining a global perspective, and developing skills that are super valuable in today's world.
Exactly. Those are benefits that can pay off in big ways down the line.
And even when it comes to those big tuition figures, sometimes the more expensive option might actually be the smarter investment in the long run. Like that $60,000 per year tuition in the US we talked about earlier. Well, if you're studying something like engineering or finance at a top university, you might be looking at a much higher earning potential after graduation compared to a less expensive program somewhere else.
It's all about weighing the costs and the potential benefits and figuring out what aligns best with your long-term goals.
So yes, we've talked a lot about being financially savvy and all that, but it's important to remember that studying abroad is about so much more than just the numbers.
It really is about the experience itself. The cultural immersion, the personal growth, the chance to step outside your comfort zone and embrace a new way of life, those are things you can't put a price tag on.
I totally agree. I still remember my study abroad experience like it was yesterday. I lived in this tiny little apartment in Florence, spent my days getting lost in museums and art galleries, made friends from all over the world, and somehow managed to communicate despite my very broken Italian. It was challenging, exhilarating, and honestly, it changed me.
Those kinds of experiences stay with you for a lifetime. They shape your perspective, your understanding of different cultures, and your ability to navigate an increasingly globalized world.
So, listeners, as you're doing your research and comparing your options, don't just fixate on the sticker price. Think about the value, the potential, and the transformative power of a global education.
Remember, the best study abroad destination is the one that fits your individual goals, values, and aspirations. There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about finding the right fit for you.
It's your journey, and we're here to give you the information and insights you need to make it an amazing one.
Exactly. So before we wrap up this deep dive, we wanted to leave you with one final thought, something to spark your curiosity and encourage you to think outside the box.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the final nugget of wisdom?
What if, in addition to considering the financial aspects, you also thought about the non-financial returns?
Non-financial returns. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about the skills you'll develop: adaptability, problem solving, cross-cultural communication, independence. Those are all incredibly valuable skills that employers are looking for.
Oh, absolutely. And those skills go way beyond just getting a job. They help you navigate the complexities of the world, to be a more informed and engaged citizen, and to embrace new challenges with confidence.
Exactly. So when you're weighing your options, remember that the most valuable returns often come from experiences that enrich not just our wallets, but also our minds and our hearts.
Well said. Studying abroad is an investment in your whole self, your personal growth, your professional development, your understanding of the world.
And those are returns that you can't really measure.
So true. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the costs and the value of studying abroad. We hope this has been helpful and inspiring as you start planning your own international education adventure.
We know we covered a lot, but you might still have questions.
Absolutely. So if you're, trying to decide between specific programs or scholarships, or if you're just feeling a little overwhelmed by all the information out there, please reach out to us. We're always happy to point you in the right direction or share some resources that we found helpful.
Yeah, we've been there. It's a big decision, choosing to study abroad. There's no doubt about that. It can feel like a mountain of paperwork and deadlines and financial stuff to figure out.
It can definitely feel overwhelming at times.
It can, but don't let that scare you away.
Right. Because it's also an incredibly exciting and rewarding experience, and it can really have a huge impact on your future.
Exactly. So remember, you don't have to navigate this all alone. There are so many resources available to help you. Talk to university advisors, check out online forums, connect with students who have already studied abroad. They can offer amazing insights and support.
That's such a good point. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Lean on those resources, embrace the challenge, do your research, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Yes, studying abroad is an adventure. It's a chance to immerse yourself in a new culture, to make lifelong friends, and to maybe even discover some hidden talents and passions along the way.
It's about pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, embracing the unknown, and opening yourself up to a world of possibilities.
And who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of when you take that leap.
So to all our listeners out there, go for it. Chase those study abroad dreams. We're cheering you on every step of the way.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep expanding those horizons.
And from all of us here at The Deep Dive, happy exploring.